Technical drawings are literally everywhere in engineering. Honestly, whether you're designing a microscopic medical device or a massive suspension bridge, these documents are absolutely crucial. They are the ultimate tool for communication. We're not just talking about random lines on a page here. This is a literal language of creation. Engineers all across the globe use it to turn ideas into physical reality. Being able to read and understand them, well, it's basically a superpower. Okay, let's dive into this explainer and unlock exactly how to read this universal language.
So, here is our roadmap for today. First, the language of engineering. Second, anatomy of a drawing. Third, translating 3D into 2D. Fourth, the rules of dimensioning. And finally, number 5, the reality of imperfection. Let's just jump right in. Section 1, the language of engineering. Before we start decoding all those intricate symbols and numbers, we really need to lay down a solid foundation.
To start, engineering drawings essentially come in two main flavors: assembly drawings and detail drawings. So the crucial point is to think of assembly drawings kind of like a recipe for putting a complex dish together. They show how all the different parts of a system actually interact with one another. And they usually come with a bill of materials, which is basically a handy little table listing all the parts, matched up with these little numbered balloons pointing directly to the drawing. On the flip side, detailed drawings are the strict, exacting instructions for creating just one single ingredient. Now, they don't usually tell you exactly how to manufacture the part out on the shop floor, but they give you every single geometric detail you could possibly need to fabricate and inspect that one specific component. Section 2. Anatomy of a drawing. Okay, now that we know what type of document we're holding, let's actually look at the physical page itself, so you know exactly where your eyes should dart first.
I totally get it. When you first look at a complex drawing, it can look like a terrifying jumble of lines and numbers. But hey, don't panic. Regardless of whether it's drawn to ASME standards in the US or ISO standards internationally, every single drawing follows a very predictable, organized structure. When you get one, your eyes should immediately go to the bottom right corner, the title block. Think of this as the drawing's ID card. It tells you the part's name, who drew it, the scale, and crucial make-or-break details like the material and the surface finish. Next up, glance at the top right for the revision history. This is super important because it tells you if you're looking at the original design or, version 5.0 after everything went completely wrong the first few times. And finally, the whole center of the page is the drawing space, where the actual geometry lives.
Section 3. Translating 3D into 2D. All right, this brings us to what is probably the hardest spatial reasoning hurdle in all of engineering. How exactly do you take a complex, three-dimensional object and flatten it perfectly onto a two-dimensional piece of paper without losing any critical information? The answer is a clever little trick called orthographic projection. Just imagine placing the part inside a giant glass box. An orthographic view is created by projecting the visible edges of that part directly onto the glass plane between you and the object at perfect right angles. The author of the drawing is always going to choose one view to be the front view. This is your anchor. It's carefully selected because it's the view that provides the absolute most information about the object's overall shape. From there, the other views, like the top, bottom, left, and right, essentially just fold out from that central front view, sort of like unfolding a cardboard box. But here is where it gets a little tricky, mostly because the world hasn't quite agreed on exactly how to unfold that glass box. We have first angle projection, which is really common in Europe, where the projection plane is placed behind the object. What this means in practice is that the view of the left side of the object actually gets placed to the right of the front view on the paper. I know, a bit counterintuitive. Then there's third angle projection, which is standard in North America. Here the plane is between you and the object, meaning the left view goes exactly where you'd expect, on the left. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how you solve this puzzle out in the wild. Just look for the tiny tapered cone symbol down in the title block. If the view of the cone showing two circles is placed to the left of the side view, you're looking at third angle. If it's on the right, it's first angle. This tiny little symbol instantly calibrates your brain on how to read the entire page. Even with perfect orthographic views, let's be real, some parts are just incredibly complex. so authors can throw in supplementary views anywhere on the page to help you out. An isometric view is fantastic because it gives you a beautiful 3D representation that instantly clears up any mental fog about what you're looking at. And if the part has tricky internal geometry, well, the author might use hidden lines, which are shown as dashed lines or, better yet, a sectional view. This is super cool. It's where they digitally slice the object wide open, adding diagonal hatching marks to the solid areas that were cut, literally letting you look right into the guts of the component.
Section 4. The rules of dimensioning. So once we have our shapes properly mapped out on the page, we need to give them some scale. We're transitioning to the actual vocabulary of the drawing now. And just like writing a sentence, adding lengths, diameters, and radii requires following some pretty strict grammatical rules. Engineers are absolutely notorious for being incredibly strict about keeping the drawing space clean and readable. Let's just rapid fire through some of these best practices. First off, dimensions should always set outside the part's outline. You never want to cram them inside where it gets messy. Second, you should never ever dimension to a dashed hidden line. If a feature is that important, cut it open with a sectional view. Third, if an angle looks like it's exactly 90 degrees, you can safely assume it's a right angle. No extra dimension needed. Fourth, circular features always get center lines to visually reinforce the fact that they are round. And finally, if a dimension is just there to be helpful but isn't strictly required for manufacturing the part, it gets wrapped in brackets. We call those auxiliary dimensions.
And this brilliantly illustrates how this drawing grammar works out in practice. When you see a threaded hole, you're not just going to see a simple diameter. You'll see a scary alphanumeric callout like M10 by 1.56H. Looks like gibberish, right? But watch how easily this breaks down. Step 1, the M just means it's an isometric thread. Step 2, 10, is simply the nominal diameter, so 10 millimeters. Step 3, x 1.5, is the pitch, meaning there is exactly 1.5 millimeters of distance between each individual thread. And step 4, 6H, tells the machinist the class of fit, basically how tightly it will screw together. And that capital H confirms it's an internal thread, like a nut rather than a bolt. See? Once you know the grammar, it literally reads like plain English. Section 5, the reality of imperfection. Okay, now we have to shift our narrative away from the perfect theoretical world of the 2D drawing space and step into the messy reality of the physical world. If a drawing asks for a length of exactly 50 millimeters, and we manufacture 10 of those brackets, every single one of them is going to be a slightly different size. Because literally nothing can be manufactured to an absolute mathematically perfect dimension, every drawing absolutely must include tolerances. This is the acceptable limit of deviation. Honestly, a drawing without tolerances is fundamentally incomplete. But listen closely to this quote because it's massive. The golden rule when it comes to tolerancing is to avoid specifying tolerances that are tighter than is absolutely necessary. Demanding extreme, unnecessary precision, it drastically limits the manufacturing methods you can use and absolutely skyrockets the cost. It is a fantastic way to make your entire manufacturing department hate you, for sure. And get this, exactly how you place those dimensions on the page drastically impacts the final physical part. On the left, we have chain dimensioning. This is where you measure from one hole to the next to the next. But because each dimension has its own tiny allowable error, its own tolerance, those errors can mathematically stack up as you move across the part, potentially completely ruining the alignment of that final hole. Now on the right is datum dimensioning. Here, all measurements are pulled from a single anchor point, or a datum. This is almost always preferred because it completely prevents those tolerances from stacking up, and as a bonus, it makes measuring the final part with calipers significantly easier for the inspector. But here's the thing. Traditional tolerancing has a major blind spot. It really only controls size. But what if you need a surface to be perfectly flat, or a cylinder to be perfectly round? Enter GD&T, or Geometric Dimensioning and Tolerancing. You'll instantly know a drawing uses GD&T if you start seeing dimensions enclosed in boxes, alongside these complex little rectangles called feature control frames. GD&T is the absolute next level of engineering communication. It allows the designer to precisely control shape, orientation, and function rather than just basic size. So, engineering drawings have been evolving non-stop since the Industrial Revolution. Today, we are seeing the massive rise of model-based definition. This is where all these dimensions and tolerances we just talked about are baked directly into the 3D computer model, working right alongside advanced 3D statistical tolerance analysis. Which really begs a fascinating question. Are the days of the traditional 2D engineering drawing, this incredible universal language we've just learned to decipher, finally numbered? Are screens going to fully replace paper out in the machine shop? It's a massive, game-changing shift in how we create, and definitely something to keep your eye on. Thank you so much for learning with me on this explainer, and keep exploring.